I'm supposed to become the valedictorian of the state, but I decide to not attend the SATs. After all, in my previous life, my best friend, Bianca Walters, had made a pact with a tenfold transfer system. The $3 million prize money I had obtained from becoming the state valedictorian was transferred into Bianca's account. On top of that, it was increased by 10 times as well. Just like that, Bianca moved on from wearing faded old clothes to limited branded apparel. She even muttered, "What's the point of being a top scorer even though you're poor? At the end of the day, you'll still slave away for us rich people." Enraged, I rushed over and demanded Bianca for answers. But my boyfriend, James Tips, was quick to shield her from me and yelled at me for being a crazy lady who was jealous of others. Since my mom couldn't get her illness treated due to the lack of money, she ended up dying with resentment in her eyes. Overwhelmed by despair, I took my life by jumping off a building. Beep. When I opened my eyes again, I realized that I've gotten reborn. This time, I've also made a pact with the tenfold transfer system. You must study hard and a lesson. After all, someone like you who's destined to be a pauper was born to work for wealthy people like me, Bianca Walters said. I knew I had been reborn when Bianca's loathsome voice reverberated in my ears. I had been brought back to the day when my so-called best friend told everyone that she had managed to earn $7 million through her own business. The pain of all my bones shattering into a million pieces after I jumped off the building still lingered. My boyfriend, James Tips, infuriated and berating, snapped me back to reality. Have you gone deaf, Anna? Or are you just pretending not to hear what Bianca said to you? Her kindness is truly wasted on someone like you. That's enough, Bianca chimed in. It's fine. Don't be so harsh on Anna. Maybe she just isn't able to accept the cruel reality for the time being. Bianca held James' hand, hoping to comfort him. James shot a pained look at Bianca before pulling her into his arms. Meanwhile, I pulled out my phone and checked my bank account. It was completely empty. As expected, Bianca had used the tenfold transfer system to steal the $7 million that I had gotten from selling the house. I had planned to use the money to pay for Mom's medical bills. How did you manage to earn $7 billion from your business, Bianca? Can you teach us your secrets? I second her suggestion. We don't want to study hard anymore, Bianca. Let us join your business. The students approached Bianca and formed a circle around her. Oh, there's no secret, Bianca replied. My family's company has been helping me the entire time. Mom and Dad just can't bear to see me work so hard. Envy glinted in the eyes of the students upon hearing Bianca's words. They then shot looks of disdain at me. Anna truly has no idea how good she has it. Not only is Bianca pretty and kind, but she also sponsors Anna by giving her some money every month. Now, she's even promising to let Anna work at her company after graduation. I have no idea what Bianca sees in Anna. Even if we ignore her poor and shabby appearance, she's still incredibly ungrateful. She's nothing but a heartless wretch. In my past life, I desperately tried to explain to everyone that Bianca had transferred $7 million out of my account, and to herself after I was framed. She even pretended to be charitable and donated a few $100s to me. I hadn't expected everyone to assume that I was being jealous, pointing at me and scolding me for being ungrateful. James had also slapped me hard across the face on Bianca's behalf. This time I grabbed Bianca's hand. Tears streamed down my face as I looked at her and said, "Thank you for sponsoring me, Bianca. Don't worry. I'll definitely study as hard as I can to repay you." The students were rendered speechless by my words. Meanwhile, Bianca seemed immensely pleased as she enjoyed my pathetic reaction. You have to become the top scorer in the province, Anna. If you aren't able to secure the $3 million reward, you won't be able to pay for your mother's treatment. As expected, Bianca was still eyeing the reward money for becoming the provincial top scorer. I had no doubt that she would transfer it out of my account the moment I received it. I thought about the pain I suffered in my last life when my family fell apart, but I continued to maintain a grateful expression on my face. I visited Mom in the hospital after school was over. She was sound asleep. Genuine tears rolled down my face as I looked at Mom's thin face. She had lost an alarming amount of weight because of her illness. I'll protect you this time, Mom, I murmured as I held her hand. I activated the tenfold transfer system, setting Bianca as the target. I'll consider the $7 million that you stole from me as payment for your life, Bianca, I thought to myself. In my past life, I didn't understand how Bianca had suddenly gotten rich. We grew up in the same rundown apartment building. Both of us washed and re-wore our clothes so many times that they became worn and faded. I couldn't understand how she suddenly became wealthy after transferring to my school, but I had a gut feeling that it wasn't because of her so-called business. At first, I couldn't figure out why my money would disappear from my account without rhyme or reason. I assumed that I was caught up in some sort of telecom fraud scheme, and thought that I wouldn't be able to find out the truth even if I made a police report. Everyone assumed that I had gone mad due to my obsession with money. The missing puzzle pieces finally fell into place when Bianca suddenly announced that she had earned $7 million through her business. She had been the mastermind pulling the strings behind the scenes all along. Fortunately, an omnipotent being decided to give me another chance at life. This time, I was determined to make Bianca pay for her transgressions against me. I spent the rest of the night taking care of Mom. The next day, I noticed the students were shooting envious looks at me when I arrived at school. Anna scored the highest points for the mock exams in the entire city. That's amazing. I wonder how she did it. She's probably going to become the provincial top scorer too. The award is $3 million. Meanwhile, Bianca gripped her desk tightly. She looked extremely annoyed when she said, "So what if she scored the highest points in the city? She still has to rely on me to sponsor her. A regular person wouldn't be able to achieve the wealth of my family, even if they worked themselves to the bone for an entire decade. So what if she becomes the provincial top scorer? She would still end up working for me in the end." Bianca's eyes flashed before she continued, "Don't worry if you didn't do well on your SATs, everyone. You can work at my company. I'll even give you some of the shares." The students immediately flocked to Bianca. "You're right. So what if she's good at studying? In the end, she'll just end up being your employee, Bianca." "You're so kind, Bianca. Anna, you should show Bianca how grateful you are. There's no way you would have scored the highest points in the city without her sponsorship. Grovel at her feet and show her how grateful you are." Bianca's upset expression morphed into a happy one. She puffed out her chest and looked at me haughtily. I scoffed and pulled out my phone. I then dialed a number and set the phone on speaker mode. "Mrs. Walters, it's me, Anna. Bianca only scored 700 points during the mock exams. I wouldn't have scored 1,600 points if I had known her results would end up like this. She's really upset now. Why don't you comfort her?" A furious voice that belonged to a middle-aged woman echoed from the receiver. "You good-for-nothing, money-wasting Bianca. I had to spend so much money and nearly went broke to send you to the same high school as Anna. I did all of that because I wanted to give you the best learning environment." The woman took a deep breath before continuing through gritted teeth. "And how did you repay my hard work? Anna scored 1,600 points while you only scored a measly 700 points. Your score isn't even half of Anna's. I'm going to teach you a lesson you won't forget when you get home." A dead silence descended upon the classroom. The students exchanged glances with each other before whispering among themselves. Was Bianca lying this entire time? Her family had to use all their money to send her to this school. That's impossible. Doesn't she own a successful business? And where did she get so much money from? Didn't she show us her bank balance in the past? Maybe she edited the photo. Maybe she's been faking it this whole time. The color drained from Bianca's face in an instant. She lunged at me and tried to snatch my phone out of my hand. I immediately took a step backward and dodged her attack. James clamped a hand around my arm and dragged me to the side, exerting so much force that the pain temporarily rendered me speechless. He snatched my phone from me and ended the call. "What do you think you're doing? How dare you hire someone to act as Bianca's mother just to frame her? Bianca's giving you money to sponsor your studies. Calling you ungrateful is far from enough, Anna. You're such a despicable person." James glared at me with disdain. Gone was the tall and handsome man with the clear and bright eyes who had blushed and stammered when he confessed to me. The students around us began chiming in upon hearing James' words. "No way, Anna. I didn't know you were that jealous of Bianca. She treats you so well, and gives you money every month. Why would you slander her like this? How terrible. How frightening. I had no idea that Anna was such a schemer. I nearly fell for her lies. It's pointless for her to have such good results when she has such a horrible personality. What an ungrateful wretch." I stood there and let them hurl their insults at me. I wasn't bothered enough to explain myself to these spineless idiots who couldn't even form their own opinions. I turned around and prepared to leave. "Wait," Bianca said, blocking my path. "Did I give you permission to leave? Do you really believe that you can just slip away after dragging my name through the mud? I'm willing to be the bigger person and let you go, but you have to grovel for my forgiveness first. You can forget about leaving if you don't." Bianca's admirers immediately surrounded me upon hearing her words. "Didn't you hear Bianca? Hurry and beg for her forgiveness. You should get on your knees right now if you know what's good for you. Don't blame us for being rough with you if you don't." The corners of my lips twitched up into a smile as I swept my gaze over them. I pulled out a can of pepper spray from my bag and sprayed it at one of the male students who tried to pin me down. The student let out a blood-curdling scream as he covered his face and rolled around on the ground. "My eyes, are you still going to block my way?" I asked lightly. Everyone snapped back to their senses and immediately backed away from me as far as they could. They were terrified of being the next victim of my pepper spray. "All of you are useless," Bianca exclaimed while stomping her feet and digging her sharp nails into her palms. I ignored her and left the classroom, making my way toward the office. I lightly rapped my knuckles against the door and waited. "Come in." My teacher, Heather Miller's gentle voice resounded from beyond the door. I pushed open the door. Looking at Ms. Miller with determination blazing in my eyes, I said, "I've decided not to take the exams, Ms. Miller. Instead, I'm going to sign my national letter of intent instead. Are you sure, Ms. Lawson? Heather asked seriously. I nodded without any hesitation. I've made up my mind, Ms. Miller. After the SATs were over, Bianca invited everyone out by telling them that she was hosting a student gathering. I'll cover all the expenses for tonight. Enjoy yourself to your heart's content, everyone. Don't feel guilty about spending my money. Everyone hollered and cheered upon hearing Bianca's words. You're much too generous, Bianca. I love you to death. Now this is how a true heiress should behave. She should be an extremely generous spender. All the students flocked around Bianca and fawned over her, while I was forced into a corner. I couldn't help but scoff at how shameless Bianca was for using my money to foot the bill. But it was fine. The higher she flew, the harder the fall. Just then, Bianca noticed me huddled in the corner. She grabbed my arm and said, You've been working so hard recently, Anna. What did you think about the exams? I knew that Bianca was testing me, trying to see if I was confident I would win the title of provincial top scorer and the $3 million reward that came with it. I narrowed my eyes and said languidly, I think I did really well. It shouldn't be a problem at all for me to be awarded the title of provincial top scorer. What about you? Bianca tightened her grip around my arm. She forced on a smile and replied, It doesn't matter how I did. I'll be inheriting my family's company soon. She paused before continuing, Oh, that's right. Your mother's really sick, right? Do you have enough money to pay her medical bills? I hope that Mrs. Lawson won't pass away with any regrets. At the mention of regret, I recalled how Mom had spent the last moments of her life wallowing in resentment in my past life. My entire body shook from anger as I knocked Bianca's hand away. James immediately delivered a powerful kick to my stomach when he noticed what was going on. Caught off guard, I crumpled to the floor. Sweat cruised down my back from the unbearable pain. James looked down at me from the tip of his nose. How dare you hurt Bianca when she was just concerned for your mom? I hope that kick will serve as a lesson to you. I won't let you off the hook that easily if you hurt Bianca again. Powering through the pain, I looked up at James and retorted, I'm your actual girlfriend, James. Why do you keep taking Bianca's side time and time again? The Tips family was extremely wealthy. There was nothing that James could gain by currying favor with Bianca. On top of that, an actual rich person would easily be able to see through Bianca's flimsy persona of an heiress. James burst into mocking laughter, as if he had just heard a hilarious joke. My girlfriend? Stop being delusional, Anna. You're nothing more than a rebound who refuses to leave me alone. Do you really believe that you're on the same level as Bianca? The other students began to chime in with their own opinions. He's right. You need to take a good, hard look at yourself in the mirror. Bianca's so kind while you're the epitome of evil. I can't believe you're delusional enough to believe that you can win James' heart. You heard what he said, right? He wouldn't even consider accepting you as a rebound. James moved closer to me and whispered into my ear. You were always outdoing me in everything, Anna. You always win first prize in competitions, and you're slated to become the next provincial top scorer. But things are different now. Bianca has the ability to use the tenfold transfer system. You're never going to make a name for yourself for the rest of your life. My mind went blank when I heard James' words. There was a loud buzzing in my ears. It turned out that James had known the truth all along. He and Bianca were accomplices. Fortunately, I still had my trump card up my sleeve. I looked at Bianca timidly and mumbled, I shouldn't have been jealous of you, Bianca. Why don't I drop by your villa during break to work as one of your maids? I still need to pay Mom's expensive medical bills. You're such a kind person. You'll definitely forgive me, right? The students immediately grew excited at the mention of a villa. We want to visit your villa too, Bianca. We've never seen your villa in person before. Please let us come over. Bianca's expression twisted. She didn't own a villa. Her current residence was an old and rundown apartment that didn't even have an elevator. Don't tell me that you don't own a villa? I asked with wide eyes, making sure to inject just the right amount of surprise into my voice. The other students began to notice that something was amiss when Bianca stumbled over her words. Does she not have one? Was she just putting on an act all along? I don't think so. She looks pretty rich to me. All her clothes are limited edition pieces. Maybe they're just really good counterfeits. Bianca's face turned a ruddy red. She fixed on a haughty look and exclaimed, Of course, I own a villa. It's just that it's undergoing some renovations recently, so you can't come over now. Give me a week. I'll give you a tour of the place in a week's time. Her words dispelled the doubt in the students' hearts, prompting them to continue showering her with endless praises. A week later, everyone dropped by Bianca's villa. Bianca glared at me. If it weren't for me, she wouldn't have had to resort to taking out a few high-interest loans to purchase the villa. She had even stolen the deed of her house and mortgaged it just to gather enough money. Oh my God, Bianca. Your villa looks so grand. It's even more impressive than the villas that I see on the TV. A female student exclaimed while covering her mouth. Bianca shot a gloating look at me. It didn't matter to her that she had spent a small fortune to purchase the villa. Once I was awarded the title of provincial top scorer, And the $3 million that came with it. Not only would she be able to pay off her debts, but she would still have plenty of leftover money to buy anything she desired. The scores are out, everyone. Hurry and check your results. Oh no. I only scored 1,000 points. I'm done for. What about you, Anna? What's your score? Everyone gathered around me and pinned their gazes on me. Bianca was among them, looking as if she wanted to snatch my phone out of my hands and check my score for herself. I slowly pulled out my phone and languidly navigated to the results site under everyone's scrutiny. I entered my details and waited for the page to load. Bianca was momentarily stunned when she saw my score. She swiftly snapped back to her senses and grabbed my collar. Why did you get 0 points? She roared. Let Anna go, Bianca, one of the female students said. The site doesn't show the scores for the top 50 scorers in the province. That's probably why her score is 0. Although she was a little confused over Bianca's fury, she still patiently explained the situation to her. Bianca awkwardly let go of my collar. A wide grin broke across her face in the next second as she exclaimed, "Oh, that's right. I totally forgot about that. You must be the provincial top scorer then, Anna." I slowly lifted my head and stared at Bianca's face that was flushed from excitement. A confused look crossed my face as I said, "But I didn't take the exams, so it's impossible for me to be the top scorer." Silence descended upon the grand marble foyer of the villa like a heavy, suffocating blanket. Bianca's eyes dilated until they looked like black holes carved into her pale, sweat-slicked face. "Well, what did you just say?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the central air conditioning. "I said I didn't take the SATs, I repeated, my tone light, almost casual. I submitted a blank answer sheet for the first section and walked out after 10 minutes. My official score is 0. "You're lying," James roared, stepping forward and lunging toward me. He snatched my phone from my hand, his knuckles turning white as he aggressively refreshed the state portal. The screen blinked. Candidate, Anna Lawson. Status, disqualified/non-attending. Final score 0. No, 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 no. Bianca shrieked, snatching the phone from James and smashing it onto the polished marble floor. The screen shattered into a spiderweb of cracks, but the truth remained unyielding. "You idiot. You absolute failure. How could you submit a blank paper? You were supposed to get 1,600 points. You were supposed to be the provincial top scorer. You were supposed to win the $3 million. The classmates surrounding us exchanged baffled glances. "Wait. Why is Bianca so angry that Anna failed?" one girl whispered. "If Anna failed, doesn't that mean Bianca's company doesn't have to hire her?" "Yeah, why is she talking about the $3 million prize money like it belonged to her?" Another student chimed in, frowning. Bianca realized her slip of the tongue. She squeezed her eyes shut, her chest heaving violently under her fake designer blouse. She was shaking, not from anger, but from sheer unadulterated terror. Because there was no $3 million. And without the $3 million, there was no tenfold transfer system activation to yield $30 million. And without $30 million, she had no way to cover the short-term, high-interest loans she had taken out to buy this very villa, rent her luxury cars, and purchase the counterfeit limited edition dresses sitting in her closet. "Why would I take a standardized exam when I've already chosen my path?" I asked, quietly, reaching into my backpack and pulling out a thick gold-embossed folder. I opened it and held it up for everyone to see. It was the National Letter of Intent from the Imperial Institute of Science and Technology, the country's most prestigious research academy. I was admitted under the National Young Innovators Direct Track, I explained, sweeping my gaze over the dumbfounded crowd. "It comes with a full presidential scholarship, a personal research laboratory, and an immediate signing grant of $5 million. I leaned closer to Bianca, lowering my voice so only she and James could hear. "I don't need $3 million from a provincial exam, Bianca. But more importantly, you don't get a single penny of it." Bianca's legs gave out. She collapsed onto her knees right on top of the shattered glass of my phone, her hands clutching her head as a guttural sob tore through her throat. "No, my money, my $30 million. She babbled incoherently. Before James could even process what was happening, the heavy iron gates of the villa's courtyard rattled violently. The loud, aggressive honking of 3 black SUVs echoed through the estate, followed by the heavy thud of combat boots marching up the marble driveway. The front doors of the villa were kicked open with a deafening bang. 5 tall, muscular men dressed in dark leather jackets strode into the foyer. The man leading them had a jagged scar running from his left ear down to his jawline, and he was holding a thick stack of red-stamped legal notices. The students shrieked, scattering toward the corners of the room like startled rats. "Which one of you is Bianca Walters?" the scarred man barked, his eyes scanning the room like a hawk. Bianca scrambled backward on her hands and knees, hiding behind James's legs. James, save me. Tell them who you are. Tell them your father is rich. James stepped forward, attempting to puff out his chest and project his usual arrogant demeanor. Do you have any idea who you're dealing with? I'm James. Tips. My father owns Tips Logistics. If you lay a finger on her. Slap. The scarred man backhanded James with such force that James spun in a full circle before crashing face first into a glass display case. Shards of glass rained down over his back as he groaned, clutching his bloody nose. I don't give a damn about Tips Logistics, the scarred man spat. He pulled out a folded contract and snapped it open in the air. Bianca Walters took out an emergency high-interest loan of $12 million 7 days ago to put a down payment on this property. The daily interest rate is 2%. Payment was due at noon today. He looked down at Bianca, who was trembling so hard her teeth were chattering. Where's the money, little girl? The students gasped in horror. $12 million. She borrowed it from loan sharks. I thought she said her family owned a massive corporation. I thought she said she was a billionaire. She lied to us. She's a fake. The scarred man sneered, waving his hand toward his men. Search the house. Seize everything of value, jewelry, cars, clothes, furniture, and call the towing company for the sports cars parked outside. No, you can't do this, Bianca wailed, grabbing the man's pant leg. I have money coming. I have a system. I was supposed to get $30 million today. The scarred man kicked her hand away in disgust. System? You're out of your mind. You're a broke brat living in a dream world. Pack your trash and get out of this house before my boys throw you into the street. In a matter of minutes, the luxury illusion Bianca had meticulously built dissolved into dust. The loan shark stripped the villa bare, hauling away the artwork, the designer bags, and even the gold-plated fixtures. The classmates who had fawned over her just an hour ago now looked at her with pure disgust and hatred. You scammed us. One girl shouted, throwing her drink directly at Bianca's face. We spent our savings coming to your stupid parties because you promised us jobs. Pathetic parasite. Another boy yelled. They stormed out of the villa one by one, leaving Bianca sobbing in the ruins of her fake empire. I stood near the doorway, watching the spectacle with a cold, unyielding gaze. Suddenly, a soft, electronic chime echoed in my mind. Beep. Target. Bianca Walters has entered absolute financial liquidation. Tenfold. Transfer system activated. My phone in my backpack, my secondary device connected to my official bank account, vibrated continuously. I pulled it out and looked at the screen. Notifications were flooding in at blinding speed. System notice. Target Bianca Walters attempted to leach funds from user Anna Lawson. Target asset value. Minus $12 million debt. Reverse clawback initiated. Tracing illicit transfers from Life 1 and current timeline. Reclaiming stolen funds. $7 million house sale value. Applying tenfold penalty to target's original financial sources. Total amount transferred to user Anna Lawson, $70 million. I stared at the numbers on my screen. $70 million. In my past life, Bianca had used the system to leech my hard-earned success, feeding on my blood and sweat while watching my mother die in agony. She thought the system was a cheat code that granted her immunity from her own laziness and malice. She didn't realize that a system built on theft and transfer required an anchor. When the anchor, my expected prize money, vanished, the system didn't just fail, it collapsed inward, pulling everything she had stolen back to its rightful owner, multiplied tenfold by the cosmic debt she owed me. Anna. A trembling, bloodied hand grabbed my sneaker. I looked down. James was crawling toward me across the littered floor, his face covered in blood and tears. The arrogant boy who had kicked me in the stomach, who had called me a rebound, who had laughed as I begged for my mother's life, was now looking up at me like a beaten dog. Anna, please, James whimpered, his voice cracking. I was tricked by her. She manipulated me. She told me she had a system that could make us rich. I never loved her, Anna. You're the one I love. You're brilliant. You have $5 million from the institute. Please help me pay off my father's creditors. My dad just called. Tips Logistics went bankrupt this morning because of Bianca's fraudulent investments. I looked at him, feeling no anger, no satisfaction, only a deep, profound revulsion. You knew, didn't you? I asked softly. In my past life, when my mother was dying in the hospital bed, when I didn't have a single dollar to buy her pain medication. You knew Bianca stole my money. You helped her cover it up. James's eyes widened in horror. How? How do you know about that? I know everything, James, I said, stepping back so his bloody hand slipped off my shoe. And that's why you deserve every second of the hell you're about to live through. I turned my back on him and walked out into the bright afternoon sun. Behind me, The sound of loan sharks dragging Bianca out of the villa and James screaming into his phone echoed through the empty courtyard. An hour later, I arrived at the Central Medical Center in a private luxury sedan, provided by the Imperial Institute. I walked into the VIP wing on the top floor, where the country's top chief of oncology was waiting for me. Ms. Lawson, Dr. Vance said, greeting me with a respectful bow. The transfer of $70 million from your account was cleared 30 minutes ago. We have already secured the imported targeted therapy medication and reserved the private surgical suite for your mother. Tears welling in my eyes, I nodded. Is she awake? She is. And her vital signs are stable. I pushed open the door to the sunlit private room. My mother was sitting up in bed, wearing a clean, soft hospital gown. Her pale, thin face looked fragile, but when her eyes met mine, a warm, gentle smile spread across her lips. Anna, baby, Mom whispered, holding out her arms. The doctors told me. They said you got into the Imperial Institute. They said you solved everything. I rushed to her bedside, dropping to my knees and burying my face in her lap, letting the tears I had held back through 2 lifetimes finally spill over. I saved you, Mom, I sobbed, clutching her thin hands tightly against my cheeks. I saved us both. No one is ever going to hurt us again. Mom stroked my hair gently, her touch warm and real. I knew you would do great things, my clever girl. I always knew. While my mother began her life-saving treatment in the quiet sanctuary of the hospital, the storm outside raged on. By that evening, the news of Bianca Walters' massive fraud broke across all local media outlets. Her mother, who had spent her life savings and committed loan fraud to send Bianca to elite schools, was arrested at her workplace. The old rundown apartment they owned was seized by the bank. Bianca herself was dragged into the police station in handcuffs, facing multiple counts of high-interest loan fraud, illegal gambling, and identity theft. When the police searched her phone, they found thousands of messages where she bragged about stealing lives and using magic to ruin people. The public declared her criminally insane, and she was remanded to a psychiatric detention facility pending trial. As for James Tips, his father's company dissolved overnight due to the massive debts James had guaranteed using company assets to impress Bianca. Stripped of his wealth, expelled from the school board and blacklisted by every university in the country, James was forced to drop out and work 18-hour shifts at a manual labor yard just to keep the debt collectors from knocking down his door. 3 months later, the autumn breeze blew softly across the grand plaza of the Imperial Institute of Science and Technology. Thousands of students, professors, and international dignitaries sat in the auditorium, watching the live broadcast of the National Science Laureate ceremony. I stood at the podium, wearing a crisp white academic robe, a gold medal resting against my chest. Beside the stage, sitting in a wheelchair pushed by a private nurse, was my mother. Her hair was growing back, her cheeks were rosy and full of life, and her eyes sparkled with overwhelming pride as she clapped for me. Many people asked me why I didn't sit for the provincial exams. I said into the microphone, my voice steady, clear, and ringing across the hall. They thought I gave up my chance to be the valedictorian. They thought I lost the race. I smiled, looking out at the sea of faces, at the cameras broadcasting my image to millions of homes across the nation. But a test score doesn't define your worth, and wealth stolen from others will never buy you a future. I continued. Real power isn't about transferring someone else's success to yourself. It's about building a mind that no one can ever steal from. The applause erupted, loud and deafening like thunder. In the corner of the auditorium's security office, a small television screen was tuned to the news. Inside a dreary gray cell at the state psychiatric ward, Bianca Walters sat on the concrete floor, staring up at the TV mounted behind the iron bars. She watched me, shining, beautiful, unstoppable, standing at the pinnacle of the country. Bianca clawed at her own face, weeping, screaming, and pressing her forehead against the freezing bars until she bled. That was supposed to be my money, she shrieked hysterically to the empty hallway. The system was mine. I was supposed to be the rich one. A guard walked by, tapping his baton against the bars with a cold smirk. Shut up, inmate. Nobody's listening to you. The screen shifted, showing my mother smiling and throwing a bouquet of fresh flowers toward me on the stage. I caught the flowers, raised my head high, and stepped into the bright, endless light of my new life.